this little moment that we had technical issue, so with the cameras we need to change the recording device. Alright, so here's one of the most important things that we've discovered through all this entire process, and I'm going to read it to make sure you understand clearly twice if needed. But you people are all intelligent enough, and I think I speak good English, even with my French accent. By the way, I was supposed to tell a little joke at the beginning, which I forgot, so I'll tell you now. So you've noticed, yeah, I'm a Frenchie, right? So I've got good news for you. First, it's absolutely not contagious, so you won't have a problem with it at the end. And the second thing is, when I speak in French, I do have a strong French accent, so yeah. So I hope you enjoyed the joke. It's a running gag now. Alright, so following the grand jury was presented as its own entity, as a person, some would say, to the Supreme Court, and there 5 humans presented their case, including myself as a human under my full name. But the grand jury was there, and we received the default judgment. We didn't quite receive it. We've organized stuff so it happened this way. It is in the procedure of every common law court to be able to proceed in default judgment. So what is a default judgment in the end? A default judgment is a ruling granted by a court or judge. By the way, the Supreme Court Registrar is a judge of peace, so he has that power to do that. There's no need for a hearing. Default judgment arise in circumstance whereby one party to a suit has failed to perform a court order action. In this case was answering to the appeal, right? And subsequently, that failure has not only prevented the issue from being presented before the court, but also in the court settling the legal dispute in the favor, sorry, am I skipping a line here? In favor of the compliant party. For example, when a defendant is summoned to appear before the court in a case brought by a plaintiff, we were the plaintiff by the way, but fails to respond to the court's legal order, the judge can rule for a default judgment, in our case the registrar, and thereby decide the case in the plaintiff's favor. The defendant, though not present before the court, is obligated to abide by the court's ruling for default judgment and subject to any and all punishment requested by the court. Cornell Law School. And if you know anything about court, the judge, they normally, especially in the case of default judgment, they don't get to write the judgment. The party writes the judgment. And then the judge, they rule if it's what they want as a judgment. They usually don't override what the prosecutor do. They go by the advice. And so that's how it works, because what we brought before the Supreme Court is a civilian case, right? There's nothing about criminal law, it was all civilian. So it did work. So here on the next slide, you get the default judgment. And I've got it here for those who wants to see it. It's only 4-page thick for 6 plaintiffs in total. So it's really, really, really short. It's really clear as well. So I can talk a little bit about it because we're probably going to talk very fast about the next 2 slides. And so in our default judgment, the prosecutor and all people presented as plaintiff on the judgment, we obtained the power to shut and turn out any corporation or alike that is pretending to be the government when they're not. And in the case of Canada right now, everything is a private corporation. There's absolutely nothing public. You're a fool if you believe that. Well, you're wrong, because the facts are for us. We're going to show you the evidence a little later this afternoon when we come back from break. But in other words, the power of Canada is now in the hand of 6 people, 3 of them which are in front of you now, and the grand jury. Yes, I have earned the power to shut any corporation that pretends to be government when it's not true, on my own pace. So this is why we've kept on the grand jury website a list of criminal organizations. This can be expanded, in fact, to every and all corporation in Canada, even the mom and pop hot dog shop. If they pretend to be the government in any way, shape or form, we should simply shut them down, because their business license was provided to them by an illegal structure. Doesn't mean that they become legal on their own. So yeah, we are there at this point. This judgment is now more than 2 years old. The grand jury's judgment is reaching its fifth anniversary. Nothing was contested by anyone. And they had plenty of time, plenty of challenge. We've informed them at every level. I don't even know how much Angèle has spent on bailiff to inform them. I don't even know how much Denis has spent on bailiff to inform them. And I've long lost account of my own pocket money that I've put into it to inform everyone about this situation. Not just the criminal corporation, but people like you as well. I've traveled throughout this country, having these types of talk that we're having today, maybe not so much sophisticated as this, because this I built with Maureen recently, but I made sure that everyone know who I am, what my powers are, and it's the same for Angèle or Denis, or Régent for that matter, because she represents Régent just like the way I represent Denis. So yeah, we're not here merely to expose a problem, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. I think you all know there's a problem. We're here to provide you with a remedy, and I hope you'll like it. Because the RCMP on this slide here, they really don't like it. Among one of the procedures that we've done, I've sent an order to the RCMP, among other, to stand down on everything. They can still patrol the street to arrest a crook, that's not a problem, but when it comes to what we're doing, exposing the problem and claiming our freedom of association, especially in common law, they got to stay away, otherwise they're going to be arrested by me, because they pretend they are the government, but in the case of the military, they are the RCMP, sorry, they're absolutely not the government, they're not even the police, they are paramilitary, they are militia. And yet they abuse the title of police. So they're not agents of peace. They are on the same regime as I am, as a retired military. There's no difference. It's one of them. I'm one of them. I'm a military. I'm no agent of peace. I'm an agent of war. I'm not here to preserve life. I'm here to kill. That was my duty. And I'm not, when I'm military, right? I'm not here today to do these things. But when I'm serving, I am not a peace agent. So they are not peace agent. They are agent of war. So don't be fooled. So the judgment was delivered to the CSST's office in December 2015, like I said earlier. During the same month, it was also delivered to the Ministry of Labour, the Quebec Bar Association, Utmost Criminal. It was sent to the Quebec Maple Syrup producer. I'll refrain from saying what I think of them. It was also sent to most of the corporation at that point in 2015 that were identified as criminal organization, not all of them, it came subsequently. But on December 18, 2018, which is a significant date, December 18 for us, I'll skip over that, but it was delivered by somebody that I don't know, that I don't have anything to do with. He just took the judgment from the grand jury and from the Supreme Court, he printed them out, and he went to the RCMP's headquarters in Ottawa, and he dumped it on his desk, on their desk. In this case, it was right outside. So here's the photographic evidence that this was done. They've replied to us a whole bunch of beep. Alright, I'll read you the file, I'll read you the next slide here, but also tell you the detail about it. So the triage group of that's word from the RCMP, these are excerpts from their letter, right? The triage group of the National Division of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police received your document that you deposit at our headquarters in Ottawa. After reviewing the information you provide, it was determined that it did not meet the threshold to initiate a criminal investigation under the mandate of the National Division. Of course, I sent them a stand-alone order, so it's out of their jurisdiction. But they do say this line here: the mandate of the National Division is to conduct investigation into cases that undermine Canada's political, economical, and social integrity, including but not limited to national and international corruption, war crime, and crime against the human race. As noted above, you can contact a legal representative, in other words, a corrupted and criminal lawyer, and that's not without a reason why they're called that way, to help you with your civil complaint. And they've also, and we didn't put it in there, but they said that they didn't have the power to arrest Justin Trudeau because he was not guilty of anything. Well, this is misleading, because we never brought our case against the standing government per se. Not even in Quebec when we did the grand jury, we didn't accuse the National Assembly, we didn't accuse the House of Commons. Never ever did we went into that, and they say we can't arrest Justin Trudeau for treason. I replied to them within a letter that I have the secret of, that they were misleading the case and that they were now suspicious organization to be arrested if they kept on lying to us. We really had a case against the CSST and the Quebec maple syrup producer. This was civilian case. They don't have anything to do with criminal in this matter, but they did have to obey to the warrant of arrest that were issued for the 110 criminal charge that you saw earlier. This was prosecuted by me and Angèle alone. She was the judge, I was the prosecutor, because those are the power that we got from the people. The people ordered us at the grand jury to lead a criminal investigation, to prosecute it, so we did, and we did sentencing. But that never, ever, the name of Justin Trudeau was on the list. And so they were misleading us in that case. But on the other hand, they were respecting the order to stand down, not to get involved. So this is why I didn't arrest the RCMP yet. No reason. They are obeying the first order. Remember what I just said was brought over by someone I have no link with, no clue who he is in real life, never met him, never had a cup of coffee with him. He just took the grand jury and the warrant of arrest and went on his own pace in Ottawa. So it had nothing to do with it. But I was involved in replying to them after the answer, because this guy, he contacted me between the two things. So I hope you have learned from this part one, from the grand jury. There would be much more to say about everything that we've done up to this point. I'll spare you from it. I thank you for being here again. We're going to take a lunch break and stop the camera and talk about other things for a while, because I've got a headache. What's that? Oh. Alright, so I'll see you after the break. We're going to get in part 2, learning from the grand jury process, and this should be also interesting. It should be fairly short, then Maureen's going to take the mic. Thank you very much.